let's talk books. Let's talk January and February reads so far this year in 2025. I got this book journal from Glenn from Christmas. It's a reading journal. He gave it to me and I've been logging all of my books in here, and it's definitely a way better way of tracking it. Let me show you the previous way I was tracking my books. So previously I have my bullet journal. I get like a new bullet journal every year. And this is how I was tracking my books from last year. I can definitely make like a vlog if people want that of my books from 2024 that I read. But I was just like writing them down in here. I wasn't rating them or anything else. I was just simply writing them down and moving along. This has allowed me to do so much more with everything, so I can now like actually give ratings and give my thoughts with books. And I did an Onyx Storm release party, and in that vlog somebody did say that, like, somebody commented, I appreciate your comments, but somebody commented and said that they would like a book vlog. So here we are. So we're gonna do January and February reads. This reading journal does like a book's completed page where I've been writing down the number of pages I've read, the title, the author, and the rating. And then also each book gets their own page as well of summary, titles, like my ratings for like overall plot, writing, and characters. And then how I read it, if it's like an ebook and paperback, audiobook, hardbook, ease of reading, did I like the ending, would I recommend this book, spot to put your favorite quotes, overall review notes. So let's go through the books. First is January. January was a weird month for me book-wise because Onyx Storm came out in January. I was like preparing. I wasn't reading long books or anything. I didn't want to read any books that were too much. I was gonna reread Fourth Wing and I was gonna reread Iron Flame as well. So I just didn't have time to reread either one of those, which was really disappointing. I'm gonna leave this like side of me empty so I can put pictures of the books, because most of the time I read on Kindle. I know people have their opinions. I read a lot of my books on Kindle, and then I get trophy books from here. There's a lot more that I want in this trophy bookcase because I only get the books that I'm obsessed with, not every single book I read. I do have some paperbacks, just not a lot. First book of 2025 was Sunlight by Devney Perry. I rated this book 4-star overall, 5-star plot, 4-star rating, and 3-star for the characters. Very easy reading. I rated it 5, like out of 1 out of 5, 5 being the easiest. So to give you just a brief synopsis of this book, the main character Sasha moves to Montana for a new start. She's living in like a really crappy house. This is the second book in a series, but she ends up getting a job at Haven River Ranch. Jack finds her trying to steal a shopping cart. She wasn't actually trying to steal the shopping cart, but that's how they meet. Is the cashier at this small town local grocery store thought she was trying to steal a cart when she wasn't, so helped her out and everything, and they kind of got a hit, and then she found out his last name, which is the name of the ranch, and automatically was like, no. So it was like a forbidden love kind of trope. And this is the first series I've read by Devney Perry, and this is the second one to this series. I really like her writing. It's not so like smut, but then it's also not just a romance book. There's like mystery, there's like real life issues to work through. There's not some like almost like 70% through the book there's a big blow up and everybody loves each other anymore. There's not that happening. But I really liked the character development like throughout this book, and I really liked the plot of this book. Sasha, the main girl character in this, was very argumentative at some points. She was very like stubborn and distant, and Jax obviously had a problem with that, and that's like a lot of what they worked through. Jax had to work through a lot of like patience. He was a womanizer before, so he had to like break that cycle and like reestablish himself. If you're a romance reader, I would definitely recommend this book to you. Next book I read in January, the second book in January, was Forgotten Vengeance. This is a mafia series. This is like the latest book in that series by Andrea Hagen. I started that series last year in 2024, and she like came out with this book in September, but I didn't get a chance to read it until January. If you like mafia books, it's dark-ish romance, but it's not dark romance. One quote I have from this book is, "Don't let your sob story be your life story." Main guy character Vince is a mobster bookie. He gets alcoholic gambler, sells his daughter to her for It sounds crazy. Alcoholic gambler sells his daughter to like pay off his debts to him as the mobster bookie because she's like incredibly talented at chess. She's like a prodigy for chess. Is dual POV, so like the chapters flip from him to her. There's a lot of Italian translations that have to happen while you're reading this. I kind of had like Google Translate open in my Kindle reading both at the same time. The whole book is very interesting. There's a lot of complex parts and like moving parts and a lot of traumas, a lot of politics, and a lot of like stuff within the mafia family to work through. But the end was kind of cheesy. Blows my mind because for a mafia book, you wouldn't expect it to be cheesy. It was a great romance throughout the whole thing and great character development. It was just not, the ending like kind of disappointed me. I ended up putting, I would not recommend this book. I would if you like the series, because the series is not over yet. There's still more books coming. I think the next book is coming out either in April or May of this year. So it's like, it's important for you to get like one of the characters in this world done, but I wouldn't just like randomly pick up this book if you're not fully like interested in the whole series. Next is the hardest book I've ever read. It's If You Tell a Story of a Murder by Greg Olson. So this is a real life story. Greg Olson ends up interviewing the 3 survivors, the 3 children of this woman. Shelley's the murderer and the mom of this story. She ends up murdering 2 people, and this is a definitely real life story. There's news articles all over the internet, but she murdered like 2 of her close friends and then tortured all 3 of her children, and then also tortured and potentially murdered, but she was not charged with that murder of her nephew. This was a very hard read because it's an autobiography, but like it's being told by all 3 children and they're all giving their stories, but he's interviewing them and then putting it in a narrative, like writing it as a regular story, not writing it as an interview. It's a lot of like close family secrets, and you can see they talk about like the physical abuse, the mental abuse, the financial abuse even, which I thought was really interesting that you didn't think about, taking her kids' social security numbers and opening credit cards and debit cards and student loans and everything else under their children's name. There's no quotes. I didn't highlight any quotes from this book because the whole thing was like heartbreaking. If you like true crime stories, this is definitely a read for you. It took me forever. I started this on January 8th and I didn't finish it till January 30th, and I only finished it on January 30th because I wanted to have it done as like a January read. So word of caution, is definitely a lot of triggers in this book, but it's a real life story, and I think if you like true crime, then you'll definitely be fine reading it. The next book I read in January was Praise by Sarah Kate. This is a smutty book. Business owner of this app hires his son's ex-girlfriend to be his secretary, and then they end up building a relationship. I won't say too much about this book. It shows up empowerment for the women in this story. It's an interesting read because you like books like this, because you can see that the maturity in the beginning flips at the end. If you like spicy books without the darkness, this is definitely a book for you. The second book in that series was also read in January, Eyes on Me, same author, Sarah Kate. Another really good read. I like this one a little bit more than the first one. It's a really good book. One of the quotes from this is, "Don't cry for men who don't cry for you." I mean, you don't have to read the book to hear that quote. It's a pretty good quote. There's a really great dynamic and slow burn throughout this book with their relationship. There's a lot of talk about mental health and drug abuse in this and like overcoming that. Next book, I have the physical book for this. Dun, dun, dun. Onyx Storm. My review of Onyx Storm. Highly anticipated. No one asked for this. Onyx Storm was a read. It was a read. I am obsessed with this whole world. I know they're supposed to be making a TV show series about this, and I really hope they still are. I really hope it comes more quicker than it seems like it's going. This is an interesting read. I thought it was really good. There's a lot of twists and turns in it. One at the ending, somebody dies, and I cried a lot at that ending. This took me so long to finish. So I posted the Onyx Storm video of us going premiere party for it. I started the book that night that we went to the premiere party, so the day before it released, so January 20th. I did not finish this book until right before Valentine's Day. There's a lot of new people in this. There's a lot of names being thrown at you. This is the first time in this series I've had to look at the map a lot to understand what is going on. It is good though, because I think she knew people were Rebecca Yaros, she knew people were gonna be confused on this, because they have the map, right? Like the map that's in all the other copies. And then she also has in here a list of everyone's names and their dragons and their segments. And I think she did that because she knew people were going to be confused. And the Griffin Riders are even listed on there. So they have like the Griffin Riders and the dragons. They have world leaders so that you can understand like all the world leaders at the bottom. So I have the paperback copy. I read Kindle because I'm on the go a lot. I was reading this on my Kindle while getting my nails done. I brought this to the gym a few times for the sauna, but then I read the e-copy on the treadmill because I've been walking like 30 minutes every day and then another half mile when I'm done working out. That's been like my routine lately. So I've been reading it on Kindle. So I definitely switched between Kindle and hardbook for this. It's a lot, but it's a really good addition to the series. I'm very upset because it did leave off on a cliffhanger. That's what Rebecca Yarros does. That's her writing. I do think the cliffhanger on this is not as like heartbreaking and aggravating as the previous book was. At the end of Iron Flame, that was like, come on, you know, but it's still a cliffhanger and we're not going to get the next book for this for another 2 years or so. That's sad. So in 2 years, I will be rereading this entire series. Very good read. I ended up rating it 4 stars. I rated an ease of 2 out of rating. A lot of new characters, a lot of new information. I did really like Violet and Xaden's romance in this. Their romance in this was something special and truly, I think, because you see a lot more trust, a lot more like caring nature, but the end was really stupid for having to wait another 2 years for the next one. If you want to start romance books, this is the whole series of everything right now: Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm. If you want to get into like fantasy series and romantasy series, this is definitely like a great first one to get into, but be prepared to be aggravated because the next one is not coming for another 2 years. So you have at least 2 years to read the series for the next book to come out. Okay, next is the series I'm currently reading right now. I started the Edens. Indigo Ridge is the first book by Devney Perry again. So this is me reading another Devney Perry series. I'm currently, spoiler alert, I'm on the 5th one right now. So hopefully in March I can finish 5th and 6th. Indigo Ridge by Devney Perry. This was such a good book. It was such a good book. I got sick, not the flu, but like a cold that had every single flu like symptom except fever. So I ended up being home from work for a few days. So I got to read this while being sick. I read this within a day because I was just at home reading all day. I rated this 5 stars. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. Small town romance. Read it on Kindle. Winslow is her full name, but they call her Win. She is the new sheriff and she's coming in after like to Quincy, Montana. Her grandfather is the mayor of this town and he like nominated her for this position, but there was a whole council and everything to get her in. She ends up having a one-night stand with the oldest son of the Edens, or like who founded this small town. Before like they knew who each other was, they didn't say last names or anything. They had a one-night stand. The next day she started her new job and she figured out like who he is. So they agreed like not to date, and so it's like a forbidden love trope again. As this romance like storyline is happening, there's also a string of suicides that just doesn't sit well with her, so she decides to investigate them. And so there's a murder mystery and romance happening like all at the same time. Some quotes for this is, "Don't take your mind for granted or your heart. They are gifts and they are not guaranteed from day to day. For the first time in a long time, I knew the man holding me tight would never let me fall." I need the trophy book for this one. This is the series that I need the books to put on my bookshelf. The next book I read is the second book to that series, Juniper Hill. Second Born of the Edens is the main lead character, Knox. He's the chef at their local hotel restaurant. And then Memphis is a runaway rich kid from New York City that she got pregnant and decided to create a name for herself. And so she left her parents in New York and starting fresh by herself with a newborn 4-month-old son, Drake. She's staying in his apartment that's attached to his garage because she gets a job working at the local hotel, the Eloise. I, again, loved this. I really loved the storyline in this. There's a lot of suspense towards the end of this book, and there's like a huge thing that happens at this book that you would never, I didn't guess, a lot of people I don't think would guess. Going number 3, Garnet Flats. Read this book again in 2 days. Talia is the main character for this, and she is the doctor. Like, she's a doctor at the local hotel for this small town, and it's her long lost boyfriend. She dated for a year during her undergrad. He became a UFC fighter, but they broke up because he married her best friend. So after he gets divorced, after his father father-in-law dies. He is chasing after her in Montana. Again, a lot of plots twist with this. I think this whole series, if you like romance books but you don't want like the stereotypical and you want something like a little bit more, it's definitely giving a little bit more. For this one is number 3, and then the next one is Jasper Vale. It's book 3 and 4 of the series. I do think, and I hate saying this, I do think that the author Devney Perry got tired while writing this, because there's a lot of plot lines in this that could have had so much more conversation that it just didn't happen, or there's like a brief note about something that happened that as a reader, like I really wanted to see what would happen in that circumstance. But it's a really cute love story, and then there's also like mystery family drama situation that also happens at the same time. I really like her writing too, because she doesn't do like when you're 3/4 done with the book there's a huge blow up and nobody loves each other and then whole unhealthy relationship and then I forgive you and all. There's not like all of that with her writing. Garnet Flats was then 2, and then the next book was Jasper Vale. It's Eloise, the manager at the hotel, and Jasper is the UFC fighters from book 3, his best friend and trainer that stays in Montana. They get married in Vegas drunk one night, and that's how the book starts off. I do think there's some plots where she got tired writing this book, but I liked Jasper, the main guy character in this, because there's some different levels of trauma. Like he has family trauma, but it's not so serious, if that makes any sense. Like he was not abused by his parents. He wasn't like neglected at all as a child, but he definitely has some like things to work through, because it wouldn't be a fictional book without trauma working through, obviously. There's a lot of deep moments in this that you wouldn't expect for just a storyline where they get married in Vegas. They end up deciding to do a fake marriage to continue. Some quotes for this that I really liked was Eloise was trying to cover those ugly horses with pretty pictures. Apparently she was allergic to her side of the bed. I thought that was really funny. The Edens waded through thick and thin together, didn't they? I liked that. I almost cried. There's a few moments in this book I almost cried. There's some shed tears over the plot line in this. If you like romance books but you just want like a little more but still an easy read, I would highly recommend these. Are not too spicy of books at all. There's a few scenes, but it's not like Praise and Eyes on Me that was like a lot. So the current one I'm reading, and I'll get to what I think about it in March, is the 5th book of that series with the Edens, Crimson River, and that starts with her getting like almost dying during a hike. If you really liked this video, please let me know. I know it's definitely different than what I normally do, but maybe people like talking books. Please comment if you have any opinions. If you have books you think I should read. I read a range of everything, so I'm here for it. Please let me know. Typing away, trying to type ACOTAR. I know I need to read ACOTAR. Okay, I read the start of the 3rd book last year, so I just need to reread the 3rd book, but I have read the 1st and 2nd. I just need to finish that series as well. But thank you for joining me. Hope you had a good time.